In the top stories, dead body found on Nevis. Jamaica's Prime Minister and opposition leader take COVID-19 vaccine. And U.S. officials question AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine trial results. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Wednesday, March 24, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, the police on Nevis are investigating the discovery of a dead body on Tuesday. According to a police source, the victim is male and the body was found at Bath Village. Details surrounding the discovery are still unclear as police investigations are still underway. We'll have more information as it becomes available. 4 bills will get a second reading when lawmakers meet for National Assembly on Thursday at 10 a.m. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris will move the second reading of the Gaming Control Bill 2021 and amendments to the Income Tax Bill and Companies Bill. Additionally, Minister of Foreign Affairs the Honorable Mark Brantley will move the second reading of an amendment to the Civil Aviation Bill. National Assembly will be broadcast live on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM and other participating radio stations. It can also be viewed live on TV, ZIZ Channel 5 in St. Kitts and Channel 98 in Nevis. It will also be streamed live on our website, www.zizonline.com. Copies of the bills can be found on the website, www.sknis.gov.kn of the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service under the section Bills. As part of its vaccination, man and the biosphere will be the topic of discussion on today's edition of Working for You. Austin Farrier, Senior Physical Planner, Telka Wallace, Project Coordinator for the Man and the Biosphere Project, and Mrs. Dorothy Warner, Secretary General of St. Kitts and Nevis National Commission for UNESCO, will be the featured guests with host Lesroy Williams. The discussion will focus on the preservation of the St. Mary's biosphere, the benefits of preserving the biosphere, and the education campaign to involve the public. Working for You airs live every Wednesday on ZIZ Radio and other participating radio stations, and the program is also streamed live on the SKNIS Facebook and YouTube pages. As part of its vaccination rollout and to facilitate persons who may not have the opportunity to attend the vaccination clinics during the week, the Ministry of Health has announced that COVID-19 vaccination clinics will be available at 4 health centers every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon. The locations are the Newtown Health Center, Bastair Health Center, Tabernacle Health Center, and St. Paul's Health Center. These weekend clinics are in addition to the weekday vaccinations at all clinics beginning at 1 p.m. We now move to news on the regional scene. Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness, his wife Juliet Holness, and as well as opposition leader Mark Golding received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine on Monday. The politicians took their jab ahead of schedule and on the heels of a barrage of stricter COVID-19 measures as the government grapples with the daily record of COVID-19 infections. More in this report.
The leaders of the 2 major political parties have now taken the AstraZeneca vaccine. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, his wife and Member of Parliament Juliet Holness, as well as the opposition leader, PNP President Mark Golding, received their first dose of the vaccine Monday. Prime Minister Holness is encouraging Jamaicans to take the vaccine when their time comes. But in the meantime, he's urging citizens to adhere to the safety protocols.
The numbers will continue to rise if we do not observe the protocols. If you do not have to go somewhere, stay at home.
There have been several criticisms about the Prime Minister's delay in taking the vaccine. Mr. Holness in the Parliament last week revealed that he would wait his turn to be vaccinated in April. Mark Golding at the time seemingly nodded in agreement. But days later, the 2 leaders received their jab on March 22, right on the heels of stricter COVID-19 measures.
I was quite willing to wait my turn. I don't have any comorbidities. I'm 55 years old, so I'm not in the highest risk group. But I did decide to, when invited, I said, let me go and do it because I think it's very important that as many people as possible who may be anxious about it or reluctant to do it, change their minds and get it done.
Meanwhile, on the outside, frustrated citizens line up before the 3:30 deadline in hopes of receiving their vaccine. But according to the Ministry of Health, many of them do not even have appointments. Now, the ministry says only healthcare workers and citizens 75 years and older can receive the vaccine.
All the line you see outside here are not for people who have appointments. We give appointments based on time and day and location. But what you have is that people just hear that vaccinations are being administered, and there's a group of individuals who want it, which is a good thing, but they just turn up and they end up waiting in the sun. A number of them get through, but it's something that we want to discourage.
Jamila Maitland for CVM Live.
Minister of Agriculture in Barbados says there is growing interest in the medicinal cannabis industry from investors. Minister Indar Weir says applications to the Barbados Licensing Authority has more than doubled since January. More in this Barbados Today update.
When we launched on January 18th, we were starting to receive applications at pace. To date, and I hope the honourable member for St. Michael West is listening, we have 45 draft applications. What is a draft application? It means you've expressed an interest. You want to know more, so you're talking to the Cannabis Licensing Authority with a view to applying for a license, 45. We have two applications that were submitted, not approved, but the persons have had all their questions answered. They're comfortable that this is what they want to do, and they want to go to the due diligence process.
The minister did not disclose what categories of licenses the draft applications fell into. He, however, indicated that no application was likely to be approved before May.
And we've allocated 4 months for the due diligence process. So if we started in January, February we were in a national pause, so we could not have dealt with applications because the Cannabis Authority was closed. People were working from home. And this is March, where we've just started to come out. So we don't have a 4 months period yet where we can say the due diligence was done and so a license was issued.
Internationally, AstraZeneca has promised to share its most up-to-date clinical data with the U.S.'s National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases after concerns the vaccine maker may have provided information that was not current. Health officials in the United States are reviewing the shots to get approval for its use in the country, and a report showed it was 79% effective. In the United Kingdom, where a part of its population has been inoculated with the AstraZeneca jab, the company said a study showed that the shots did not increase the risk of blood clots. Al Jazeera's Nadim Baba reports.
Marking 1 year since the start of the UK's first COVID-19 lockdown, at workplaces and on the streets, people stopped to remember. Calls for a public inquiry have been getting louder, but Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who found himself in intensive care with COVID last spring, says that's not the priority.
Doubtless there will be a moment to properly to review, to learn lessons, and to make sure that we learn those lessons for future pandemics of a kind that I'm sure that there will be.
In February last year, this South London hospital received the capital's first COVID-19 patient. Within weeks, the place was overwhelmed. A year on, the number of people who've died within 4 weeks of a positive test stands at over 125,000 people. The true COVID death toll is higher still. But amid the grief and the anger, there is hope. More than half the UK's adult population has had a first dose of a COVID vaccine.
Okay, are we ready?
The UK's programme has involved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine and the AstraZeneca jab. Now US officials have voiced concerns about trial data for the latter, a day after interim results in the US suggested it was 79% effective against symptomatic COVID.
The Data and Safety Monitoring Board, when they saw that press release, they got concerned and wrote a rather harsh note to them and with a copy to me, saying that, in fact, they felt that the data that was in the press release were somewhat outdated and might, in fact, be misleading.
AstraZeneca says it'll share the most up-to-date data with the monitoring board by Thursday. But if there's potential for reputational damage in the US, in Europe it's already happened. In France, they're scrambling to get back on track with the vaccine rollout. Last week, the Prime Minister made sure he was seen getting an AstraZeneca jab, after his government, like others, briefly halted the use of the vaccine over blood clot fears. Now Paris is calling on AstraZeneca to meet its delivery promises.
We're fighting to get doses, in particular AstraZeneca, which is currently a little below its commitments to us. So we'll continue to mobilise, and the European Union is very engaged on this subject.
Later this week, EU leaders are set to discuss a possible ban on vaccines being exported from the EU to Britain. For now, Brussels is playing down that prospect, but keeping up the pressure on AstraZeneca.
It is a shame. It is a reputational damage of a huge extent, but it is also a question that many people are dying because the vaccines are not getting here.
In Germany, where infections are on the rise, Chancellor Angela Merkel has confirmed a 3-week extension to lockdown measures, with public life largely shut down over the Easter period. A reminder of why speeding up vaccination programmes and overcoming public scepticism is so important. Nadeem Barber, Al Jazeera, London.
In the U.S., Senate Democrats are planning a vote on expanded gun control measures after the nation's second mass shooting in a week. On Monday, 10 people, including a police officer, were shot dead in Boulder, Colorado. Police arrested a 21-year-old who is facing 10 counts of murder in the first degree. President Joe Biden has called for a ban on assault weapons and expanded background checks, but Republicans are not likely to back his proposal. Al Jazeera's Mike Hanna reports.
Flags at government buildings once again fly at half-staff on the president's orders, just as they did a week ago following a mass shooting in Atlanta. Among the 10 killed in Boulder, Colorado, was a 51-year-old police officer, Eric Talley. His fellow officers and citizens paid tribute as his body was taken to the morgue.
Gun violence is a pandemic within a pandemic. We know about 50 million guns were sold in the last year, many of them to people who live in states that don't require a background check or training or permitting.
And the president has called for a bipartisan push to institute stronger gun controls.
We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again. I got that done when I was a senator. It passed. It was law for the longest time. And it brought down these mass killings. We should do it again.
2 bills making it more difficult to buy a gun have been passed in the House of Representatives in recent weeks, but they are likely to face strong opposition when brought to the Senate.
For years, Democrats have pushed for action to stop this killing with common sense reform that will save lives. For years, we've been blocked by Republican leaders and their special interests. Now, we can act, and we will.
The divisions remained on sharp display in the Senate Judiciary Committee session on gun control, scheduled before the shootings in recent days.
Thoughts and prayers are not enough. And yet, thoughts and prayers is all we have heard from my colleagues on the other side. Thoughts and prayers must lead to action.
I agree. It is time for us to do something. And every time there's a shooting, we play this ridiculous theater where this committee gets together and proposes a bunch of laws that would do nothing to stop these murders.
The legislation that's been passed in the House falls far short of the president's call for a ban on automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines. It proposes extending the background check period from 3 to 10 days. Yet given the visceral Republican opposition to any form of gun control, even this moderate measure is unlikely to get the 60 votes needed in the Senate to become law. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are fair skies with a light breeze of 9 miles per hour from the east. The temperature is 29 degrees Celsius or 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves not exceeding 5 feet. The weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis today says to expect partly sunny skies with a 40% or moderate chance of showers, and for tonight partly cloudy skies with a 30% or low chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:23 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:11 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.